Hello and welcome to the Champions of Happy podcast, the podcast where I talk to my friends about what makes them happy, what makes them smile, and what brings them joy. Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I've got some semi-bad news. I've got COVID. It's been really boring. Thankfully, I've had no real serious symptoms, so yay for that. I guess the vaccines and the boosters are doing their bit. This episode will come out on the last day of my isolation, and I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to getting out of this flat. But, that's enough about me. You're here for the podcast and the guests. Speaking of guests, I'm joined by Daniel. He is an author and nutritionist. He's just written a book called Naked Nutrition, an LGBTQ guide to diet and lifestyle. Now, when I first came across this book, my instinct was, why does the LGBTQ plus community need a book on nutrition of their own? And this podcast goes exactly into that. It's a very simple answer. Our community does have areas which aren't really given enough attention or knowledge to, or just even just thought, really. And just reading through the different chapters of the book, you do explore these different parts of our community where people do need a bit more education, a bit more knowledge, because it isn't necessarily readily available. And this book isn't such a strict book about do this, do that. It's more of a giving you insight, giving you education, and giving you a starting point if you really want to take your nutrition and go somewhere with it. The book's a really lovely read as well. It's very light and it feels like Daniel's there with you while you're reading it. It was lovely having Daniel on. His dog joined us for a little bit of the podcast as well, which I really enjoyed. I love a dog. Anyway, I'll stop babbling on. I'll let you get on with the episode. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the podcast, Daniel. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. It's quite early. I don't normally do podcasts in the morning, so thank you for getting up and doing this with me.
Have I got you out of bed, have I?
I mean, it gets me out of bed, which is probably a good thing, because otherwise I'll just stay in bed until I have to actually start work. So thank you for joining me on this lovely foggy Tuesday. So, Daniel O'Shaughnessy. O'Shaughnessy. I've messed it up already. Bloody hell.
It's quite funny.
Daniel O'Shaughnessy. See, you're my second author now on the podcast, and people are going to start to think this is a high-cultured, smart, academic podcast. I can guarantee you now, and I can't pronounce the surname on my guest, it's not. So let me properly introduce you then. You are an award-winning nutritionist and certified functional medicine practitioner. You're a podcaster in your own right with your own podcast, Naked Nutrition, the LGBTQ plus health podcast. And now, obviously, you're an author with your book, Naked Nutrition. Hello.
Hello. Thank you.
Did I miss anything there?
No, I think you've got a lot of information there. Yeah, probably more than I would remember. So it's good. Yeah.
It's really handy when a guest has their own website and a book where it's all written down for you. Yeah. And you can I can just read this. It's great.
Skim through it. It goes better. So yeah, it's been quite exciting the last week or so. So
yes, because the book came out
last Thursday.
Yeah, I saw it. I was walking past Gaze the Word, and I saw it there. And I was like, I'd already pre-ordered it from Waterstones, and I was like, I could have bought it here and then.
Okay. So
lovely.
Oh, you got it. Cool. Because it's
oh yeah.
I woke up at 6:15 in the morning, like a kid on Christmas Day, thinking, and I wanted to go into Waterstones or wherever bookshop it was near me, thinking, I'll take my mum down there, and it's like, this is it, and it was sold out everywhere.
So that's amazing.
There's no copies in London, and I messaged the publisher, and they took 6 hours to get back to me. Meanwhile, I'm scouring, how to get a copy of this, or because I had some copies, but I wanted to see it. And the publisher come back after 6 hours going, look, I'm really sorry for the delay. We've been trying to see what's going on, but it looks like it's been sold out everywhere, all the quota. So it's really good in that respect, but launched a bit of an anticlimax for me because I wanted to. Oh. So I'm really pleased at the fact that people are wanting it and buying it. But hopefully there's more stock coming in next couple of weeks. So, but the Kindle is available at the moment. So
cool. So people can always read it on the Kindle. So I'm going to ask a really, really basic question now. What is a nutritionist?
So there's different types of nutritionists, and we all kind of argue with each other, and I stay out of the arguments. So there's nutritionists that work with companies. There's dietitians that might work in hospitals and work with in GP surgeries. And then there's nutritional therapists, which what I am, and they work along the functional medicine route, which looks at underlying causes of disease, if that makes sense. So an example is, I won't just see someone for weight loss or muscle gain or something like that. I will look at someone and they'll come to me with digestive problems, skin health problems, fatigue. There is weight loss in it, but what I'll do is I'll do a comprehensive evaluation of their health and try to find the root cause of what's going on. So, for example, a digestive issue, I'm not going to just give you some fiber supplement or tell you to eat more fiber, because that might not be the real reason why you have the real support you actually need. So, digestive symptoms, for example, can be quite a wide range of issues going on. Like irritable bowel syndrome actually is just a collection of symptoms. So my job is to unpick that and try to find out what would be the actual real cause of that. So that's just one example anyway.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I thought we'd have a nice general understanding of it before we actually get into this. I was a bit nervous about this episode just because this is a subject I know little to nothing about, and I can make jokes only so far. So before we are going to dive into the book and your history and your training and everything about you, and to get to know you a bit better, but we do start the podcast with a segment called Happy Moment, where the guest shares a story, fact, short anecdote or memory which makes them happy and can bring a smile to the guests. Would you like to share your happy moment with us?
My happy moment probably was when I got my dog. It was my little Dachshund. It was typically a lockdown puppy as per se, but it was more like I now can work from home permanently. I can get a dog now. So, but she's brought a lot of joy and happiness into my life. So.
And what's the dog called again? Sorry,
Wallace.
Oh, me and my partner, we are desperate for a dog, and I now work from home. So I said, well, now's the perfect time to get one.
Exactly.
But I think he was a bit scared because I'd be around all the time. He would love me more than him. So we need to wait.
That probably happens. That can happen. So,
and I'm okay with that. So
he's here now.
Oh, viewers, you can't see him right now, but he's the smallest, cutest little hello. But he's on your Instagram, and I've seen a number of videos of him there, and he's adorable. So I can see why he's
got more TikTok followers. I did it by accident. I put like a jokey TikTok on, and it went viral. And no one cares about me anymore or nutrition. They just care about the dog. And every time I post a nutrition segment or some video or a post, they're like, "Yeah, where's Wallace?" And I'm like, "Oh." Okay. And now I get the book and I use Wallace as marketing, like most of these companies do. You have to.
You're poster boy.
Poster dog. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, is there room for a dog nutritional book out there?
I wouldn't want to deal with dog owners. Oh my God, imagine.
They're precious babies.
I mean, it's just like, I think I'll leave that to someone else. So I think I'll stick with humans for now.
I imagine, does your dog have like an amazing diet then? Is he spoiled?
Well, she is spoiled. She is very spoiled, but
she. So I've been saying he. Along.
Wallace is in Wallace Simpson. So she does have a good diet, a very good diet, but my mother spoils her, and that's why she gets. She thinks that dinner time is her time too, as well as her meal time. So
yeah.
And then, of course, if they're all involved, it's So yeah, life is revolved around. So if you're a gay man and your mother is at you to have children, get a dog because that becomes the child, and then you're stressed.
I mean, amazing. So where are you based on? Are you London or are you elsewhere in the UK?
I'm in central London, just like a stone throw from Westminster, actually. So I wasn't invited to any parties over lockdown, unfortunately. So.
What? Are you London born and bred?
No, I'm originally from Windsor.
Oh, okay, right.
Where are you?
Nice. I originally from Manchester, but not a lot of people hear that in my voice.
Okay.
Here, it's London 7-8 years now, give or take.
Okay.
But yes, back to. Thank you for sharing your happy moment with your lovely, cute dog, and everyone go follow the dog on Instagram and TikTok now, as well as the book, obviously. So back to the facts. So I'm pretty much educating myself a bit now on this because I've been reading through the book and I've been learning various things, things I didn't even know, which is educational and the point of the book. So can you please tell us, how did you train and how did you become what you are today? What is the process?
So I explain. the whole process was probably my whole career, because I worked with people all my career, all my adult life. I was one of those kids that went to uni not knowing what they wanted to do, and just picked just did the random, like, oh, that looks good course, let's go to uni and party for 3 years. So I did that, and I ended up doing criminal justice and law, which it didn't give me any, wasn't validating enough for me, but it pushed me into working in the drug addiction sector. So I worked as a drug counselor for about 7 years. So I had my own health issues, and that fueled my interest in nutrition. But I also saw the impact when I was getting more interested in nutrition, and how a healthy diet can actually help others, and just give them a bit better quality of life for people coming in and seeing me and teaching them about the basics of healthy eating. So that fueled my interest, and that pushed me to study nutritional therapy at the Institute for Optimum Nutrition. And I've now been a nutritionist for 10 years. And so this is I've always wanted to write a book, and this is kind of like now like the highlight of my career now. So I feel like I've done it, and now I will be happy in retirement if it I'm too young to retire, but that's it in a nutshell. But I've worked with clients for 10 years. I've run retreats. I've worked with companies, designed supplements, so you're always doing something. It's a very varied job. But what pushed me into the LGBTQ plus community was, of course, I identify as a gay man myself, but I just saw this, I had this knowledge, and I was thinking there's a massive market available for this, and people need this help, even if it's so simple as how to help prepare for sex or something like that. But I was actually in 2019, I went on my first gay cruise, and I was just like, the interesting part of that was that you were in the majority for the first time in your life. And there were people from all walks of life there. There wasn't just party goers. It was, there were old couples going for dinner. And so it was a complete mix of the community. And everyone kept asking me, how do I recover from this week? And when I said I was a nutritionist, and I just used to say, just drink plenty of water, get sleep, and try to eat really well afterwards, etc. And try not to have a day off, exactly, And then it just hit me. I was like, why is there not a resource that people can look at for the whole LGBTQ plus community on topics that are relevant to us? And that's when I got, it made me think I need to write a book on this. And there's no resource out there for most gay health publications, if it's magazines or a blog, all focus on muscle gain, fitness, weight loss, and they have this, the typical. It used to be more of the case of the magazines used to have like a ripped, chiseled six-pack on the front cover. They weren't catering for the trans community, lesbians, or the wider community about other issues. Nowadays, there's more out there for sex, and particularly preparing for anal sex, bottoming, and things like that. But I was like, well, there's so much more information you can take from this and provide. So that's what led me to create the book. And it was quite interesting that I went to a couple of publishers, to some traditional publishers. Some were like, no, what this is not. That's not what I kind of not interested in. And some were like, well, it's interesting, but I want you to focus on this particularly.
Right.
And I was like, well, I don't want a book that's censored. I want a book that's written from me, from the heart. And that's why that's exactly why I did what I did. So I went to a publisher, and they're actually a crowdfunding publisher. And so the idea of that was you get the book sold before you get it published. So there's no stress either side to sell copies. I mean, and then.
So is that like a Kickstarter kind of setup?
Yes. So pretty much that. And what happens is that once you fund the book to be made, then what it will do, that's it then paid for. And then they'll publish it, and you can actually write how you want to write. You of course get the expert editing and things like that. But for me, it was important to have that model because I wanted to write a piece that's really true to the gay community or the LGBTQ plus community. So I didn't want to have any taboo subjects. But I wanted to have a conclusive topic, so it wasn't being censored at all, if that makes sense.
No, totally. And it's lovely how it's come from people who you put it out there and people have actually, you can straight away see people that want it as well. Otherwise it wouldn't have been made, essentially. So it's nice that you've got that backing from the get-go.
Yeah, it was great. I had a lot of support. And I think particularly a lot of people said to me, this book's never been done. It needs to be out there. I had some backlash initially when they weren't that educated and saying, oh, you just want to get this famous from this. And I was like, if I was getting famous, I wouldn't necessarily try and write a whole, 300-page book. I'll try and do another way. But but yeah, it's been really well received. I'm really happy with what's, I think it's nice, and I'm really happy with how things have been gone.
Good. Have you been on a cruise since?
Just before COVID. I don't think I'm going to go again until it's ready. It's kind of a bit more. I just want easy traveling,
I've never been on a gay cruise, but I imagine is it party all the time, or is it depending on the gay cruise?
You have the options of it. There was just one last week apparently, and it looked quite party. But from the video, you can also I have friends that I go from Canada, and they go for nice dinners in the evening, and they go to see cabaret or salsa or whatever they want to do. So if whatever you want, it's there. And the good thing about it is that I think the most important thing is that for once in your life, you feel like you're in the majority. But one thing I do say in it is there's a lot of information in this book, and not to get completely overwhelmed by it. And I look at it like a reference book to come in and out of, and just to people to say, well, take one or two changes out of it and then apply them and then come back to it as you need to.
I do. And I agree with you on the reading the book. It doesn't feel like a strict do this. It feels very much of a take things at your own pace and adjust things that you need to. And it feels reading it feels very friendly as well. It has a real nice warmth to it.
Yeah, and I think my experience of being a nutritionist for 10 years, I've learned from my clients what works and what doesn't. And I always say to my clients initially, look, I can give you a full program, but it depends whether you're going to do it or not. And that's and then we have the conversation. At the start of it, say they want the full program, and at the end of it, I go, well, are you going to do this for 3 weeks until I speak to you next? And they go, well, I've got this coming up, and I've got this, and I'm not sure about this. So I go, well, let's just do some loose rules, and it works really well. So that's what.
How does it work with your clients? Is it an in-person thing? Is it an email thing? How's it generally work?
Well, with COVID, I've done everything online, so it's now all on Zoom, and I'm actually trying to limit. My clinics are quite a bit full at the moment, so I'm limiting the amount of clinic work I'm doing just to try and focus on the book more. But usually it's they'll do it online because I don't need to do any touching of people. So it's easy for me to. Before COVID, I was in Harley Street, and it was it was a very formal atmosphere, and I found that it wasn't giving me the best either way from the clients and also me. So I think actually online, and people are a lot more relaxed as well. So
now the tagline to the book is an LGBTQ plus guide to diet and lifestyle. Are generally most of your clients part of the community? Is it just a coincidence? Is it just how it's come to be? Or do you have a mix of clients?
So I do have a lot of clients in the community coming to see me because they just probably feel comfortable with speaking to a member of the community who's a nutritionist. But they might come to me for a particular reason, whether it's HIV nutrition, transgender nutrition, for example, or they might come to me to discuss a topic which is impacting their lifestyle. So they might come to me for digestion, but feel more comfortable talking to someone of the community who understands why digestion is important, for example, a gay man,
Yeah.
So there's two aspects of it. I do have heterosexual clients. I don't discriminate. I'm quite an inclusive nutritionist, but I feel that I am able to I think people relax a lot more with me and understand and then feel free to tell me that, like, for example, they might party, or, you know, they're thinking of trying whatever, or, you know, for example, also another thing is I myself have been to doctors and I've told them that I take PrEP medication to prevent HIV, and they assume that I've got HIV.
Seriously?
Yeah, and I'm like, so that's just, it's a bit of a bugbear, and it makes me like, oh, you know, can't we just? I want this book to also educate the medical professionals a bit, and I think a lot of nutritionists have picked this book up as well and gone, right, wow, this is good.
I imagine pretty 99% of my audience will know what PrEP is, but for those who don't, would you mind just briefly explaining what PrEP is?
So PrEP is a medication. It's pre-exposure prophylaxis medication, and what that means is that people will take it usually on a daily basis, which is given out free on the NHS, to prevent HIV. It's a form of safe sex in a way. So it's revolutionized the gay world, really. So particularly gay world. So it's and I think HIV infections have plummeted from the use of it. There's quite minimal side effects associated with it, and so yeah, it's a very progressive medicine.
See, this podcast isn't all fluff and rainbows. It's science and facts and important stuff. So the book starts, and I love the line, how you have a little line at the start of the book where it says, "To every rejected kid who doesn't quite know their worth yet, it gets better, I promise." And I think that was just so sweet and lovely.
Yeah, I think I put that in as like a it resonated to me because I was one of those rejected kids, and I took a long time for me to learn self-love and to be accepted and understand. And I think that was it was a hard journey for me. And I really see that there are many members of the LGBTQ plus community who just don't feel accepted, walking around in this confused state, in this heteronormative lifestyle. As much as we have equality and inclusion now, it's just, there's still those daily microaggressions, microstressors that just make us feel a little bit less than others. And, you know, some might be particularly rejected from their families, friends. And in different countries, of course, it's completely illegal to be gay. So that was my dedication, and that's why.
That's lovely. I don't want to give the whole book away because, you know, people should go buy it and read it themselves. But you do mention how your mum, was she a weight loss coach? Have I got that right? Or
yes.
Is something else?
She was actually a weight watcher.
Get me retaining knowledge.
Yeah, she was probably my, like, I used to always look at her as like my role model, and she had her own struggles with my father, and but she was a Weight Watcher leader, and that was both good and bad because it educated me on what the basics of diet from very young. But I did start when obviously I was going through this whole rejection and not feeling myself, so I started not being comfortable with my body. I was, you know, overweight. I was gay. I am ginger. And at school, neither of those were accepted. So it was a bit of a combo, and I was just walking around in this confused state. And so I just used food as a tool to kind of try and help myself feel better. But it sometimes turned into a bit of an eating disorder in terms of binge eating and then restricting. So that's, you know, that's what my experience of it was.
I actually kind of wanted to be ginger when I was younger. I always thought it stood out and looked really cool, and I still do actually. And I just don't think I can get away with it.
I love it now. I remember once I tried to diet with like dark mousse, and it just looked horrendous. I know what, you know. So it was those days, you know.
But we'll go through those dying moments where you really shouldn't bleach your hair white. So how long were you working on the book then? How long is it? When did it start? The idea pop into your brain to completion?
2019 until now. So I think it's been about a year in editing. So it's when you've written the book, it then takes that's not the end of it. That's really the beginning of it. Mm-hmm. What happens there is then all the editing, it goes through goes through someone to make sure it's in context, then it goes through the spelling, and then it goes through about 3 or 4 editors before it's actually ready to go. And I had some really amazing feedback, and I thank my publisher a lot for that, because they made me open my eyes and think about more of the wider community, even more than I was initially. So I was quite happy with that.
And the cover art as well is beautiful. The rainbow in a bowl.
It's lovely.
The rainbow flag, pride flag. So. It's lovely. Oh, the dog's behind you.
Yeah, she wants the ball in my pocket. I can she's angry.
Oh, play with me. Look at me.
So,
if only people could see. So I guess I'll be honest. I mean, we've kind of touched on this already a little bit, but when I first came across your Instagram page and saw you were writing this book, and I saw it was an LGBTQ plus book about nutrition, my brain did automatically think, why does our community particularly need a book about nutrition? Surely it's the same for everyone. But then, having read more about what it was about and the chapters it all covers, I mean, just to run through some of the chapters, you talk about sex, transgender nutrition, HIV, Black Tuesday, which I did not know was a term, which was new to me, mental health and fertility nutrition within our community. It does make sense to have this book, because there are so many needs within our community that aren't spoken about, and as you've mentioned before, aren't approached and touched on. So it's a really handy, useful go-to book to dip into. And I also like how you mentioned how, while not every single chapter might necessarily be relevant to you, it's still good to have an understanding and a respectful knowledge of other people's circumstances.
Absolutely.
And I just really enjoyed reading. I'm not much of a reader, so I found this quite an easy book to read, and just like, oh, I feel like you're there with me in a way.
Thank you. No, that's really good feedback. No, I have a friend of mine who's read it, and he said he's dyslexic, and he said, I usually find books really hard to read, and he's really happy that this is quite easy. That's my intention. I'm not here to bamboozle you with long tight words or whatever it is. But there are the chapters lined out, as you just said, which have specific targeted support for whatever interest it is or concern. There also is a foundation chapter, and I always stress, no matter what area of interest you have, you need to get the foundations right. And I put the foundations in because, yes, the information's out everywhere, but it can be confusing. But is it also tailored? So, and I think it's good to have a reference guide to go in and out of it. And even as I said before, if it's overwhelming, just take bits and pieces out of it as you need to at a time. I don't expect you to completely, become perfect. I'm not perfect. I love a burger. I'm not.
One of my questions was going to be, and I feel it says a lot about a person, and it's a really random question. What's your favorite kind of takeaway?
Oh, I love Thai food.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, if it's Thai takeaway, I would choose that. I'm not. I think because I had some slight orthexia nervosa, so like obsession with kind of eating healthy and binge eating and things like that. So I think I now completely reject the diet culture, and I still have to self-soothe when I and I can still fall into bad patterns of I'm not perfect because I'm a nutritionist, but I'm aware of how food makes me feel, and I know how to make pair food together to make it, so I'm not going to be craving, or I'm not going to be going hungry, or I'm going to have sustained energy levels and etc. I know what's good for me and I know what's not, but I also have that saying, it's better to eat a burger happy than a salad sad.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, I don't know really what the takeaway question really says about a person. I just like saying it. It makes me sound a bit more deep. So, do you like cooking? Are you much of a chef yourself?
I can. I am a bit more like, if I love cooking, it really relaxes me, but I'm a bit won't cook because I'm busy or I've got things to do. So I don't necessarily. When I have, if you see me post a recipe or something on my Instagram, then I've had a nice relaxing day and I've had time to do that. But I know what I have my routine and things like that. There was times when I was writing the book, I got a meal prep delivery service in, and I didn't like it at all because I just didn't feel like I was eating real food, even though it was classed as healthy food. So I like to cook from scratch. I love most food. I like anything. So
I'm trying really hard at the moment to cook more because I don't do any. I just leave it to the boyfriend to do, and I feel really bad. So I'm trying really hard. He's vegetarian, so I'm having to like learn how to cook vegetables because I'm more of a meat eater myself. So I'm like, oh, how can I make this salad more interesting? Again, the
I had
same ingredients.
there's great salad recipe books, and that's the thing as well with my book. It's not a recipe book, and I know some people will want a recipe book from it, but I can't give everything in the initial stage.
Mhm.
But I think it's important to get like the knowledge there first before we go cook these recipes.
What's the plan? Is there will you be writing more books to follow after this one?
I have some ideas. I don't want to. I don't want to put. Sorry, my vacuum came on. I don't want to. I put my eggs in one basket just yet, or count my chickens before because I might not be offered another book deal. I would love to write another book on a follow up of this, all around self love and
Oh,
acceptance, and working on that from a more practical level. And because I've been through a lot in my time, and maybe the recipe book will come from it, but it doesn't. It depends on the demand, I think.
that makes sense. That's fair. What would you say is the biggest misconception about nutritionalism?
Nutritionalism, not her.
It's not a word, is it?
I don't know. No, maybe it's a good word. Misconceptions. I think that it's all or nothing is the misconception, that you have to completely change, like, the whole I'll start Monday on my diet kind of thing. And I think it is the misconception that you have to completely change your lifestyle and you're never going to be able to have, or you have to make it complicated. And it can be quite simple. And I think there's so many ways you can make something healthier. And that the misconception also is that it's all about weight loss and helping, and I think there's a lot more around preventing health conditions, or actually supporting your mood and how you feel, and so I think nutrition is one of the pillars. I think there's nutrition and lifestyle, and also stress is quite a big thing that we all encounter. If we didn't have stress, we would all eat healthy naturally.
I wish.
No, stress is the biggest killer in life, and I do talk about that in the book. And what in stress, if you to summarize stress very quickly, we have the same physiological response to stress. How someone who is an cat being chased by a dog, for example, or a zebra being chased by a lion. But the problem is we now perceive stress. We can think about family, friends, finances, job, etc., and have the same response. So it starts adding up. And particularly in our community, we have this. There's research to show that we have this like altered stress response because we've all had this rejection and stress going through our childhood. So we have these micro stresses that are, we're more sensitive to stress than heterosexual people. So it's really interesting to read that, and because we've had this, we've always faced some sort of stress, whether it's either having to come out or being accepted or fitting in or trying to look straight or whatever it is. It has changed our physiology. So,
Gosh, I'd never thought of it that way. Gosh, I'm going to have to have a long look in the mirror now and have a good little think to myself.
So it's doing stuff that I think nutrition goes one way, but then it's doing stuff to unwind. And because you're in this stressful state, you can get addicted to the stressful state and think that's all you know. And when you start to relax, you think it's not. You think it's unfamiliar, so you don't really go towards it, or you feel guilty when you're relaxing. So simple things like going for a walk, taking time away from your phone and electronics, things like that, to really, or doing something really creative. We're such a creative community, and I think if we start, we play with that a bit more, we'll be a little bit less stressed. So
yes, I like that. I like that a lot. What would you say? What do you enjoy the most about what you do?
I love helping people. I think so. I think that's my main. That's what I was put on this earth to do. I was put here to help, and I don't want anything from it. I just really want to see, even if I can just help someone 10%, 20%. my friends all get annoyed with me because I'm always trying to help them in some way, but it's just my nature, and I think I think my aim with the book is to just give some like members of our community just that little bit of aid to just make themselves love themselves a bit better, and we all could do with that, and we all need to practice that every day. And even parents of LGBTQ plus individuals, just to see what goes on in our community, and to help their, if their kid is transgender, for example, what they can do to help them and not make it all about them, and not make it all about the parent, and how to support their child and even if it's just giving them, helping them with a healthy diet, or being there to listen, or all of this. Because I think the parents sometimes go through a bit ignorant and blind and confused because they don't understand and they can't empathize. So that's my aim was also with the book.
With your clients, when you sit them down, you help them in whatever way you do. I'm sure everyone has a different way of changing or improving. Can you see a very obvious difference from the start to the finish?
Yeah, I know it would be. I think when a client really commits, I do have clients that just like the idea of nutrition, and then they're too busy to actually commit. So when they're actually ready and they do change, and when they reject like diets and being very strict, you do see a huge change. And when you give someone, when they're more empowered, you do see a different view of them. And it's not just about weight loss. It could be digestion. It could be helping with their stress. I work on 360 angle. I work on the whole view of it holistically. So it's like I think when I'm with someone long enough, and I have some long-standing clients, I've seen a complete change in them. But it's not all me; it's them doing the work and them learning how. And so I don't take credit for what I do. It's more them, and they're stepping up and taking responsibility. I think that because I can just give the information. It just they can Google the information. It's how they actually apply it to their life.
Yeah. It's actually doing something with it. So you can help me, actually. What do I cook my vegetarian boyfriend for dinner tonight?
Oh, God. What would I cook? Well, I guess it's like, it depends if he eats cheese or not.
He loves cheese. Loves cheese.
So, tofu is quite a nice protein, isn't it, for vegetarians?
We're not a tofu family.
Not a tofu family. I'm not a fan of corn. I don't think
not.
My problem with vegetarian and veganism is that there's so many fake meat options, which are just vegan junk food. And so if you think about things, what about a nice lentil dal? That'd be nice.
Ooh, I could do a lentil dal. He likes that. Oh, might do that then.
There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, so you've helped me and I thank you for my free nutrition session. So we are coming to the end of the podcast. How do we find the book, and where would we find the book when we can find the book?
Well, it's on Amazon. It's on Waterstones, but there is a bit of a delay because we sold out initially. So there's the Kindle version available at the moment, but it's on most bookstores. Just maybe look at your local bookstore and see, if there's a local maybe LGBTQ plus bookstore, and see if they'll save you a copy. There are some book copies floating about, but in 2 weeks it should be fully stocked everywhere. So you can just put the book title Naked Nutrition, an LGBT guide, or put my name in it, Daniel O'Shaughnessy. It will come up on Google. It's being released in the US in May. But my website, if you're still not sure, is thenakednutritionist.co.uk, and my Instagram is thenakednutritionist. So you'll find me.
One question I meant to ask at the very start: where did the name Naked Nutritionist come from?
So it just came to me in a lecture once, and I thought I wanted it to be more like nutrition that's stripped back, bare, back to the basics, unprocessed, whole. I have had a couple of clients thinking I'm going to be naked and along the way, and I think they get no, but that's not ever. But I think more and more now people are understanding what it actually really means. So
Is that the title on your I don't know if you are, but if you're on any dating apps, is that your handle?
no, I don't think I have a title on those. So imagine. No, I think that would give the wrong impression. No. I try and keep
don't know. Some people might be into that.
business and work separate. But you know what they do on dating apps? Oh, I love your dog. When I'm like, what? Really? Come on.
I'm here too.
I know. So I'm
It must be a great conversation starter, though. Yes. Now come.
Yeah, I'll take the second. I'll take the backstage with the. I'll take second place. I'm happy with that. The dog can take the first. It's fine.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining me. Again, the book is Naked Nutrition, an LGBTQ plus guide to diet and lifestyle. Available. I mean, we're recording on the 25th January, so by the time this actually comes out, it'll probably be back out in restock. And like I say, Amazon, Waterstones, and all your local good LGBTQ plus bookstores. Thank you so much. Daniel, I know, can you please just plug your socials again for us?
My Instagram is @TheNakedNutritionist, and my website is thenakednutritionist.co.uk.
So if you want to find out more about Daniel and all his work, and maybe if you want to find his services, you can go there and drop him a message. But Daniel, thank you again for the book, firstly, because it is amazing. So thank you for that. Thank you for being on the podcast, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.